And we are on the air here in K-ROG. Thanks for joining us again, everybody in Rogersville, Missouri. I'm here with Roy Rickstrew, your disability guru. You can find him at yourdisabilityrep.com. How you doing?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm better than I deserve. Did you have a big weekend?
No. Nice and calm. Didn't do much of anything.
Yeah. Well, I went shooting, and luckily I did not shoot myself in the foot. Therefore, I'm not currently disabled.
Well, take the win.
I certainly will, but... No, it was a good time. We went out and did some stuff. I'm trying to think if I did anything useful Saturday. I really didn't.
We went to the lake on Saturday and found out that it is really cold.
Yeah, I'll bet it is. I'll bet it was on Saturday too. Yeah. Yeah, it's this is you got to be this is fisherman lake weather. This is not go out and play at the lake weather anymore. You can go, if you're on the lake now, you're probably fishing. You're not skiing and swimming and wakeboarding and all that tubing and stuff. But,
my daughter got me in, and it was nice and really refreshing.
Yeah, I'll bet it was. I'll bet it was. So what do we want to talk about today? How about those temporarily disabled folks? How does that come up?
Yeah, it's a common question I get a lot of times. People call in and ask about temporary disability. And from Social Security's perspective, you're either permanently and totally disabled and unable to work for a year or more, or you're not. And it's kind of funny, in the definition itself, it's kind of ambiguous.
Is it
total and permanent, but unable to work for a year or more. So is it a year disability or is it a permanent disability? But that is the standard. And there really isn't a temporary disability program through Social Security.
So that raises an interesting question. Excuse me. When you bring up the definition, which is if I can show that I'm disabled for a year or more, 18 months, I go on permanent Social Security disability. 2 years later, I'm hale and healthy and able to do anything I want.
Yeah, and this is the ambiguity that drives a lot of people crazy within the Social Security program, because there are a couple ways that things look like temporary disability. For example, you may have went in and had a knee replacement that was complicated. Social Security may have approved you, and then they wanted to look at you in a year to see if you're still disabled, or in 18 months, or in 2 years. They'll order a review. I've seen reviews of disability be ordered by judges in as little as 6 months. You know, permanent and total disability, but we're going to look in 6 months and see if you're still disabled. It's kind of an odd thing to do.
It really is. It doesn't make sense. Only a lawyer would come up with something like that. So that brings to mind, so there is a review process. I may be found to be disabled, but then 5 years later, they may call me in and say, are you still disabled?
Yeah, by default, it's usually 3 years.
Oh, really? So it's a part of the process. Every so often, you have to re-up, so to speak.
Yeah, and it can be as infrequent as 5 or 7 years, depending on how close you are to retirement age markers or how severe your condition is. Some things we're not going to get better from. Other things we might. And, you know, you'll see hip replacements or knee replacements. Sometimes they don't get approved at all, but when they do get approved, it's oftentimes a very short review. Or you'll have folks that maybe don't have a lot of medical records, but are bipolar with a lot of symptomology. They get in treatment, and things are going to get better, and, you know, judges will order short reviews sometimes.
And then at that review process, it's an all or none process there?
Yeah, it is, and it's interesting because, you know, a lot of times we watch television and we talk about, or we see on TV shows, the burden of proof, and a lot of people don't truly understand what that means. But when you file for disability benefits, you have to prove you're disabled. Once you're on the rolls and Social Security wants to review you and take you off, they have to prove that you are no longer.
So it shifts the burden, and lawyers and judges don't understand burdens of proof either. I can tell you that.
But, if you have clients that stick with the same doctors, the same medical crew, continue with the course of care, keep things as consistent as possible, it makes it hard for Social Security to find markers that say, hey, look, he got better a lot of times. A couple other things that come up for temporary looking disability. Social Security can approve somebody presumptively. So they can look in your medical condition and say, hey, look, we think this is going to last a year. It hasn't yet. We think you're going to be approved. We'll go ahead and give you the benefit of the doubt, and we'll approve you, and then we'll look at it again just right off the bat.
So you don't have to show that you've been disabled for a year.
Oh, no. It's either looking backwards or looking forwards.
Okay.
The other thing you'll see sometimes with Social Security on the opposite of the presumptive is they'll look in your record and they'll say, look, you're disabled now, we think you're going to get better. So we're going to hold your file and do nothing for 6 months. And then they'll make a decision 6 months down the road. But because of some of these things people have experience with these, short-term disability approvals, a lot of folks think that there's a temporary program when there's not.
Yeah. Technically there is. They just don't call it that. Isn't that kind of the way it is?
That's kind of practically there is, yeah.
Well, that's interesting. If you have more questions about permanent, temporary, not temporary, only looks temporary, but it's really permanent, looks permanent, but it's really only temporary. Questions about disability, go to yourdisabilityrep.com, yourdisabilityrep.com. There's lots of information on there, videos, blogs, and contact information for Roy, or just go straight to the source. Give him a call, 417-882-1800. And he'll get you in today. You can see him today.
That's right. We've been setting aside time for same-day appointments, so give me a ring this morning. We'll see you this afternoon.
Okay. Thanks for coming in, Roy. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, Will.
Yep.